Okay, I want you to go ahead and set this aside for now and get out a fresh piece of black cardstock. And I would like for you to measure over 7 inches this way and cut. We're going to turn this landscape, measure over 8 inches and cut. And this is what you should have. Go ahead and put this small scrap in your stockpile. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put a mark at 13/16 and a mark at 1. That's where we're going to score. Okay, so you're going to mark at 13/16 and 1 inch. And get out your scoreboard. So what you need to do is your 13/16. There's not actually a score mark on here for 13/16. So move your little 13/16 pencil mark to the nearest score groove and make sure it's straight up against the top, okay? And go ahead and score. Then go back and push it to the left or right, wherever, and mark your other score at 1 inch. So what you have is your score at 1 inch and your score at 13/16 of an inch. So it's not quite a 1/4 inch, okay? Let's go ahead and fold. So push your scores to the very back. And we're going to go ahead and cover this. And in your reserve or set aside, we did this. It should have been set aside. We set it aside earlier because this was part of page 8. It looks like this on one side, and on the other side it looks like this. So we are going to make this fit on here. So making sure that your flap is on the right and all the way under. So all of your scores are all the way under. Take this piece, set it on top. I'm going to make sure that my berries are on the left-hand side and that anything I have to cut off will be cut off on the right. I doubt that I will have to cut a ton off. Maybe just a smidgen. I'm actually kind of happy with the way it fits. But if you would like to, you could cut off a tiny little bit. Okay, I'm going to cut off, gosh, just a teeny bit right here. I'll be right back. Okay, so we're going to make a side pocket on this. And I realize that we're getting out a lot of paper, but all that other cardstock that you have in your reserve, in your stock, you can use for your picture mats. So go ahead and get out a fresh piece of black cardstock, and in the portrait, I want you to measure over 3 inches and cut. Okay, we're going to keep the smaller piece. Go ahead and put the larger piece in your cardstock. And I want you to get out your 1/2 inch paper punch. Let me get this stuff out of your way. And go ahead and punch the long edge of this piece of paper. Okay, so this is what you should have. And we are going to put it right here along this side. So take the piece that has the little berries, turn it so that the berries are at the top left corner. And this is going to be a side pocket. So I want you to go ahead and put a piece of score tape right along the bottom here. Get the piece that we just punched, give it a little bow. I want you to put it on there as evenly as possible. Now sometimes you like to have these little things match up, so that means that you'd have uneven. As long as you have enough to fold over, that's all that's important. So I prefer mine to be pretty even. Fold your flaps in and attach. Okay, so this is what you should have. In your reserve, you should find this. It's got the cardinals and a little piece of black fence at the bottom, and on the other side it looks like this. We are going to use this bottom right corner. Okay, so go ahead and place this, leaving your black border all the way around. Measure it and cut. And I will be cutting off the larger piece at the top first and then the small piece down the side. So I cut this piece off first. I'm going to stick it in my reserves. Now I'll go cut this piece off. Okay, so I cut off this other side piece here. I'm going to put this in my reserves, and this should fit right here. Go ahead and glue it down. Alright, so you can go ahead, sorry my camera, you can go ahead and get this black piece out that we just scored. Make sure that the hinge is on your right, okay, and this goes on the front. Once again, hinge on the right, push all the scores all the way back, and just go ahead and glue that down. Okay, this is what you should have. Now we're going to go ahead and work on the inside piece. So go ahead and set this aside. In your pile that I had you set aside, should be this piece, okay? Looks like this on one side, and on the other side it looks like this, and this is yellow. Okay, we're gonna use this side. So before we cut it to fit the back, it's gonna sound really strange, go ahead and get your Sophia die. All right, so I want to cut Sophia out of this. So what I want you to do is I want you to measure from the edge of this paper, and I've got it setting like this, to 3 7/8. Okay, make a little mark at 3 7/8. Okay, take Sophia, and I want you to make sure, I'm going to get a piece of this black paper just so you can see, okay? You can see this. All right. So put Sophia right next to so that her little peak is in the notch, or the little pencil mark you made. Make sure that you do not go off the edge of your paper. We want an entire cutout of Sophia, okay? I'm going to take your die, I'm going to place it down, and then go ahead and cut it out of the side. So, let me zoom back out. So, you're going to cut it out of the side of the paper, so it's like that, okay? All right, so this time I want you to be careful about releasing this die because we are going to use it. So, I need you to place your ruler so that you're right up to where this notch is and this notch, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and make my lines, and then I'll show them to you. Okay, so I'm going to cut right along that line, and I'm going to cut right along that line, and I'm going to release this, and we are going to keep it. Okay? So that's why I want you to be careful. We don't want to break the lacy die that we just made. Okay, so that should release that. Go ahead and set this aside. Do not put it in your reserve, just set it aside. All right. I know this is going to be strange, but go ahead and place this. Bring back out your sheet here, this one. Bring this back out, turn it over so the hinge is on your left. And I just want you to measure that this fits. So it should fit, except for this little bottom piece right here. This is going to be the opening for a pocket. We're not going to place the bottom piece, and we're not going to place this piece just yet. So I want you just to move this over. In your reserve, you should find this green sheet. It probably has some cards and stuff on the bottom. It should be the last 6x6 that we had cut from before. Well, you're going to slip this so that it covers underneath of this pocket and cut it. We are not gluing anything down yet, okay? So just don't go getting all excited on me. Okay, so in order to cover so that this little notch has paper underneath of it, you're going to need to measure over, and I can tell you right now that you're going to need to measure over about 1 3/4 inches. So if you did this right, take this, okay, I'm going to place it, and what I did was I just placed it right down, see at the bottom? I matched it with the bottom, and then I pushed it in until I could see no more black in here. Got it? Just to make safe, okay? And when I measured the little distance, okay, it came out to 1 3/4. So I'm going to take this little green sheet. I made a notch at 1 3/4, and I'm just going to slice off this piece, okay? Now, by the way, this is the 6 1/8 tall, okay? And it should fit right over. You should not see anything. Here, this is what you should have. We're keeping the smaller piece. Go ahead and put this one in your reserve. I'm pushing this berry pattern to the upper left corner, measuring so that I have the same amount of black space all the way around. Okay, this is my second score mark, so you definitely don't want to go over your score mark. And if you take the little green piece, it should fit without any black showing right underneath of there. You see that? We're going to take care of the bottom piece in a minute. Don't worry about it. All right, so before we glue anything down, we need to put a magnet underneath of here. So I'm going to hope I can explain this to the best to all of you. So we are going to have to glue this down to here first. So we're going to make some marks, and I think this is just going to make it easier all the way around. Are you ready? So go ahead and place this as if you were going to glue it down. Take your pencil and make a mark in each corner, just for now. All right. Now, I have my little pencil marks here and here. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to run it from this pencil mark that goes this direction to this pencil mark that goes this direction, which should be about a 16th or an 1/8 of an inch. For me it is. And this can be erased if it shows later, all right? So, I have made a pencil mark. No, it's kind of light. I did that on purpose, but can you see my pencil mark? Now, I'm going to place this back on there up against that corner. Ready? Put this green underneath with no black showing. Okay, see that? No black showing in our Sophia. I guess this would be the opposite of Sophia. This is the outside of the Sophia die. Can you see that? So I still have my notch down here. I have my pencil mark up here, and I just laid this right back down. So we are going to hold down the green and pick up the blue piece with the berries on it. Don't let go of the green, okay? So this is where this is going to go. Okay? So now I'm just going to make a mark right at the top and right at the bottom. All right, so I know where to glue it. I already have my line on this side. Okay, so this is going to go right there. I'm going to go ahead and put my glue on. I'm going to pull up the backing of the score tape for my magnet, and I'm going to place this right where my marks are, right up against the lines that I made for this. Okay, and that little piece of tape that we put over our magnet will help that to stay down better. So take this piece back again, put it right back where it was, measure it up, set it down. Now if you need something, I'm just going to set my score tape on there for right now, right on the top right corner. In your set aside pile, you should have these, you should recognize these. This is the same thing that we did to extend the top of this last time. This time I'm actually going to extend the bottom. Be sure that your berries are at the top, even though they look like tomatoes. Okay, we haven't glued this down yet, so this is not glued down. But we need to attach this piece right on top of this, okay? So I've already cut that little piece off. Now, I need to adhere this little strip to this, okay? So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to be very careful to make a little line where I'm going to place it. So I've kind of made just a little pencil line right there so that I know where the top of this goes. I already know where the left-hand side goes and the right-hand side, but I want to know where the top of it goes. I'm going to place, or I'm just going to place glue and glue this down. Now here's what you don't want to do. Only put glue on this, because if you put it on here and this little piece gets glue down where it's extended, it's going to glue your pocket down, and we're not ready for that yet. Okay, so just put glue right underneath of the area where you put your line. Okay, so I put a little glue there. Place this piece down right on the line up against the left-hand side, butt it right up there. Okay, so see, it's just giving me that little extension that I need, but it's not glued down. Okay, so I'm going to zoom back out again. We're going to place this, it's going to be a pocket. This is going to be the area that you insert your photo mats into. So I'm just going to put a very tiny bit of glue right as close to the edge as I can to glue this down. And I'm going to use that top little mark right here that I have and this little pocket to measure that I get it down straight. So I'm going to be flush here and flush here. Okay? I doubt you can see, well, I guess you can see my glue right along the edge. Okay? Now, making sure that my extension is at the bottom, okay? I'm gonna follow my little, I'm gonna take this and try really hard not to put this down wrong. I'm gonna follow that little line that I made earlier. Okay? Put that down, drop it down, press, press. Now, hopefully it doesn't seep too much, because the more it seeps and spreads, the less pocket space you have. So using just this little piece, I want to show you. See how we have a place to put a pocket? Or we have a pocket, a place to put a card. So you can actually put several inside of here. Okay, and so we're going to be putting mats in there later. So since it takes a while to dry, I want you to go ahead and get out your diamond stickles. And I'm going to go ahead and bling up all of my little berries. And then I'm going to set it aside to dry. I'm going to take my gold stickles, and I am going to carefully put a little gold line right along my pocket cutout. Well, this is going to take a couple extra minutes, but I think it's going to really make that pocket stand out. Okay, so we're going to set this aside while it dries. Now, go ahead and bring this piece back out. And remember the Sophia that we cut out of the side of that last piece? I want to put it right up here. But we need to do a little bit of snipping and cutting first, okay? So, first of all, I just want you to take your scissors, and I want you to cut this little curve right here. And if you follow the die, it should have kind of a little indentation already there. Alright, so I just kind of cut it off like that, see? Okay, so I don't know if you can see, but there is little indentations. I'm going to go ahead and cut all the way around this die. If yours doesn't have the lines, let me show you how you can fix that. You ready? Go ahead and get your Sophia right back on top. Match it up. Don't let go. And you can make a little pencil line, same way we've been doing before. Get her out of the way. Make a little pencil line and just go ahead and cut along the pencil line. Okay, so I've got her all cut out. Okay, I've got it all glued down. I think that's a beautiful embellishment for the top of that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our bling out. And we're going to go ahead and run bling right along this little black area. Alright, so I got the bling on. Now remember, if you're not careful, you might want to put a piece of paper in there. I was very careful not to get any glue inside any of the holes of my die cut. So now I'm going to go ahead and get out my pearls. And I'm going to go ahead and run my pearls right underneath of my bling. Okay, because we're going to have a fold over on this, I don't want to put anything too bulky. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some of my little berries that I painted red. And I'm going to place them in this corner right down here. Like that. Then I'm going to go ahead and get my diamond stickles, and I'm going to put some diamond stickles on my paper. Try not to cover my bird. Okay, so I got some little 3D berries there that aren't going to take up much space. Get out my diamond stickles and go ahead and bling up the berries in the background. Alright, so I went ahead and put a little bit of stickles. It's hard to tell, but I put some stickles here and I put some stickles here, and I actually put some stickles on my top die. It's really hard to tell. I try to get a gleam, but it is there. Now, if you put too much on this and you didn't glue it down all the way, it'll buckle. So you need to be really careful, or go back and put a little bit of glue underneath of all of that. So this has got to dry, okay? And before I put it away, I'm going to get out one of my 1/4" blings, and I'm going to put one right in the center of that black. Okay? Might as well let it all dry at the same time. You might want to put a little piece of paper behind this, just in case. Got my trusty dusty little card. Pop that little bling right on there. A little bling right in the center, right there. So while you're waiting for this other page to dry, this one should be dry now, so you shouldn't have any problem with this. Okay, you can turn it over. And this has got the hinge on the right. And if you'd like, you can go ahead and put your diamond stickles on this side. And I'm also going to run a line of bling right along here. So get your bling out, measure it, and glue it down. Okay, so I did stickles on the centers of all the berries and then the spines of all the the leaves. So I just kind of went down the centers of the leaves and then little dots on the berries. Okay, and one line of bling here. We gotta let this dry. Okay, now guys, I do believe this is all dry. So we need to place this on the side of this. So let me get that little card out of there. Go ahead and get your piece that has the hinge on the right. Okay, looks like this on one side and this on the other. And we're going to place it right on the right hand side of the piece that we just added the lace to. Okay, so you want to make sure that your scores are on the top. So fold this so both scores are on the top, no scores on the back. You know the routine. Place it flush up against this way and make sure that it's even at the top and the bottom so nothing is protruding. Go ahead and pinch, turn it over, and put your glue on. Ready for your magnet? Alright, so we know that we have a magnet under here, so go ahead and let it find its mate. I can take my little sign off now. So, it found its mate right there. See that? I'm going to go ahead and put a little piece of tape over my magnet. Okay? So now this should close and stay closed. We're going to go ahead and put score tape on the back and put it in our album. Score tape all the way around the outside is a frame, one down the center, two short ones, one on each side. Okay, so all the score tape was adhered down nice and neat, got all the backing off, and I'm going to go ahead and place page 8 in my book. Open it up, press it down, nice and neat. Okay. That is beautiful, and wow, how it sparkles. You can really kind of see the sparkles now, can't you? Awesome, we are done with 7 and 8. Hi everybody, are you ready to start pages 9 and 10? In your paper pad you should find this piece. It has that little lamppost on the corner and some cardinals on the other corner. On the other side it looks like this. Go ahead and cut the tab off and throw it away. So what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of flip things around a little bit. So what I want you to do is just measure over 6 inches and cut. Okay, this is what you should have. I actually want you to leave this one this direction, take this one, turn it all the way around so your cardinals are upside down in your top left corner. Okay, lay it on top of this one so they're like this. Okay, turn it, got it, lamppost here, cardinals upside down up here. Turn it, measure over 8 inches and cut. So you're taking both pieces like this, measure over 8 inches and cut. So this is what you should have. 2 of these, and these little pieces with the berries and the cardinals, these are going to go in your reserve, and these are going to be pages 9 and 10. So let's go ahead and set 10 aside for now, and we're going to start working on 9. Okay? So in your stockpile you should have pieces of cardstock that measure about 4 1/8 by 8 1/2. go ahead and pull all 5 pieces. Okay, so on these 5 pieces that we just pulled out of our stockpile, I'd like you to turn them this way, measure over 5 inches, and cut each one. So all 5, please. All right, so these are the smaller pieces. We're gonna go ahead and put those in our stockpile and go ahead and keep all 5 of these pieces here. Okay, on each one of these, I want you to turn them to the 4, it's a little bit over 4 inches, but I want you to make sure you're not on the 5 inches across, you're on the 4. And I want you to score at 3 3/4. Okay, so score all 5 at 3 3/4. And go ahead and fold. All right, so these are going to be our waterfall pieces, and you should have 5 of them. Okay, all with their little tabbies folded up. Just set them aside for right now. All right, go ahead and get this piece out. We're going to do a little bit of measuring. So each one of these is going to be a waterfall with a hidden hinge. So what you need to do is I want you to measure. Go ahead and turn it this way. All right. I want you to measure down 1 inch, and you can see my little lines, and that was to help you. I want you to measure down 1 inch, make a mark, 1 1/2, make a mark, 2, make a mark, 3, make a mark, 2 1/2, make a mark, and 3. So that's 5 lines. Now what we're going to do is I started on this side, okay, made a mark at 1, 1 1/2, 2, 2 1/2, and 3, and I came over on this side, did the same thing. I did a mark at 1, 1 1/2, 2, 2 1/2, and 3. Then I took my ruler and I made a line from mark to mark. So that's my 1 inch line, and down here is my line that went to 1 1/2. And that's my line that was at 2, 2 1/2, and 3. So we're going to use this to make sure when you line it up against that line, I want you to make sure pencil marks go from the end of this to the end of this. Mine is pretty close, okay? So you should have, if these are 5 and this is 6, you should have a 1/2 inch on both sides. So go ahead and measure. So now what you're going to do, you got all your lines? Put this down, okay? Line it up against your top line. All right? We're going to do this for all 5. Make sure that you're a 1/2 inch away on both sides. So this side of this black cardstock is a 1/2 inch from the edge, and this is a 1/2 inch from the edge, okay? Take your pencil and mark a line right to the end on both sides. Okay? So now what this ends up being, let me zoom in. This line right here that I just drew should be exactly 5 inches long. And this should fit. So if I cut it, the little tab on the back of this should fit right inside. You're going to do that all the way down. Okay? We're going to go ahead and do that on all 5 lines. So this is what you should have. If you want to make sure that you got your line straight, place your ruler on there and check. I'll start on one side, closer to one end. This will make sure that you're not crooked. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get our cutting pad out and your craft knife, which I don't have out yet, sorry. Go ahead, and if you have a ruler that has metal side on it, it's really awesome, or if you have a metal ruler, it's probably the best thing to use. Okay? So, I want you to cut, and I want you to notice that I made little notches that went this direction. When I lay my ruler down, I can't necessarily see my line as well, so I left those notches there so I'd know where to start and end. So, if you want me to darken them, I can. So, that's my start, and that's my end, okay? So I'm going to place my ruler right along that line and cut. Try not to go beyond your 5-inch line that you made, okay? Okay, see? So you're going to take one of your folded pieces we just cut, cardstock, pop it in there. I've got a little piece that didn't go through. There we go. Now, pop it in there to make sure it fits. If it doesn't, you'll have to cut just a little bit more. Okay, so there you go. Your first one should fit right in there. We're going to do this with all of the other slices. So to make sure that the rest of my other 4 waterfalls fit properly, let's do this. You have the first one in. Take your pencil while it's flat. Make sure it's all the way in the hinge, okay? Inside the little hole that we made. Make a line right down the right side. Make a line right down the left side. Now, you should see your lines. That is where you do not want to go past. And if you make your lines straight this way and they measured out, you should be able to just go ahead and cut the rest of them. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this one out. And I want you to go ahead and cut the rest of your lines. Okay, so got all mine cut. Time to check and see if everything fits. The moment of truth. If you are off even a slight little bit, you have to cut a teeny bit more to get it to fit in. They should fit in snugly. Okay, all 5 in. They measure up. Now they're a little bulky in the back, but that's okay because we still have to glue them all down. All right, just make sure they all fit right and you have the same amount of space on both sides. And we'll get ready to put these in. And when you turn it over, it should look like this. At this point, there is a top piece, this piece right here. If you push it back temporarily so that you make sure everything's in there nice and snug, all of these should fold down. Now some of them, even mine, go over the top. I had a little bit, a couple of my pieces might have been like 1/8 of an inch longer than the other one, but we just need to adhere these all down. So I'm just gonna get my glue out. And on the first one, I'm just gonna put a little glue on it and press it down. Try not to get any glue at where you have your little the little thing that you cut, because you don't want it to seep under. So glue each one down, and like I said, don't put so much glue on that it seeps into the crease that you cut. Otherwise, you're going to have them all on top of each other, glued down. So that's really important. So I'm going to go ahead and erase all those little lines that I made, because we don't want those in our album. Get those all out of there, okay? And then what I want you to do is on each one of these, you want to take this little flap, push it back, make sure it's behind on each one, okay? Because that's going to help them from popping up. So just make sure that each of the little flaps is behind as you go along. Get rid of all these little extra lines. I know these are going to kind of pop up on you, but remember that they're all going to be covered in paper, and then we're going to put a little band to hold them down with a magnet. So while I'm thinking about it, I want you to get out one of your little magnet things to remind yourself that you are going to be putting a magnet on the top under this piece of paper, okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and get out our magnets, and just give me 1/2 for right now. And so we don't forget, I want you to go ahead and place a magnet right there. Now that's on the top one. So let me go ahead and put this paper in here. You are on the top one. Don't get it too close to the edge, because if you do, it's going to bow your paper, and then when you put it down, it's going to look kind of weird. So I'm going to go ahead and tape down. Like I said, I use score tape. I'm just going to take a little piece of score tape, and I'm going to tape down this magnet right there. Okay? Yeah, so we're going to be using some of the pieces out of our reserve to cover the backs and fronts of all of these little waterfall pieces, but we're not going to have enough. So what I'm going to have you do is, first, for the cover, this is one of the remnants that we cut off for the backs of these. It looks like this on one side, it looks like this on the other. I'm going to use this top left corner to cover the very top one. Okay, so I'm going to lay it just like this. Go ahead and measure so you have a small black border all the way around, and cut. Just as a reminder, whenever you're cutting, always remember to cut off your largest piece first and then your smallest piece, because the larger pieces can be used more often than the little trim pieces. Okay, so I've got these little pieces that I trimmed off, and I'm going to go ahead and glue this one down, take off the score tape on my magnet. That's my first piece. Go ahead and get in your reserve and get this piece out. This is just a little bit red piece that we have. It's got berries on one side and red on the other. Go ahead and flip this up, and I'm going to measure this piece. Go ahead and put your remnants in your reserve pile. Now, I know a lot of you probably are a little bit, I want to use the word anal, about things being perfect and fitting on here and maybe not like combining things. But personally, if you're going to throw a picture over this and you had two small pieces and you could like butt them together, no one's really going to notice because it's going to have a picture over the top of it. So you're only going to see like a small border on this. So if you have like remnants that are smaller and you can butt them together and they look good next to each other, I don't see a problem with that. That's really kind of a taste, a desired taste of how you want to do it, or if you want to be more savvy in saving remnants, think about that. That's always an option, okay? All right, another piece out of our remnant. This has been hanging around for a while. This looks like this on the front, and it's dark red on the back. I'm going to go ahead and use this side, and I am going to place it so that I get most of this decorative piece on the actual piece. So once again, measure. We are going to be using this side, so make sure you make your first cut here and then slice off the top, okay? All right, so I'm going to just put this little piece in my remnant. Just set this one aside for right now. We're going to use it in a couple minutes. Place this one, make sure it measures correctly, and glue it down. I'm going to go get another piece of paper out of our paper pad. So in your paper pad, you have this. It is yellow with kind of a flower print on one side, and on the other side it looks like this. Go ahead and cut the tab off and throw it away. Okay, so go ahead and measure over 4 3/4 and cut. Okay, this is what you should have. Go ahead and hang on to the shorter piece and just set this aside. Now on this piece, let's just cut right between these two. So basically this should be, if I'm not mistaken, 6 inches down. So you can turn it this way, measure over, and cut it 6 inches, but you're cutting right between these two, okay? Okay, this is what you should have. Let's go ahead and take this one first. Just set this one aside. Take it with the cardinals right on top. Now I flipped from this one to this one. We'll do the top one in just a minute. Go ahead and measure the cardinals and measure and cut and glue this down. It should fit perfectly this way if you cut it right. So all you have to do is cut off this bottom piece. This is what I have. I'm going to go ahead and just set this aside for right now and glue this down. Okay. As you can see, I'm kind of trying to put together a little pattern here. So I'm going to go ahead and do this the back of this one in a minute. I'm just going to go ahead and flip this up to page 4. Use the bottom half of this, measure, cut off the top. Okay, this is what you have. I'm going to go ahead and glue this one down and just set this one aside. Okay, going back to the back of page 2. All right, you have these two little yellow pieces that we just cut. I'm basically going to just fit them together and make them fit here, okay? So, you should be able to fit one perfectly like this, and then you can just butt the other one right up against it, cut off the little remainder, and glue them together, okay? So this is what I have, and they're butted up together right there. Once again, it's really not going to show once you start throwing pictures on it. The patterns may not match up, and that can bother some people, but don't let it bother you, okay? It's okay, you're going to be fine. See, it looks just fine. All right, guys, so let's go for the back of this one. In your remnants, you should have a little slice of green still left. I don't know exactly what yours has on the back because I don't know which half you used earlier, but it really doesn't matter. But you should have one bit of green left over, okay? we're going to go ahead and measure and put it right there. So these are my 2 remnants. The reason why I cut the longer ones usually like this is because these are great to use for like belly bands or corner bands, or like when we make the belt to go over the top of this to hold it down. This is a perfect cover up for the inside. Okay, so let's go ahead and put these in your remnant. All right, green one's all down. I'm flipping page 4 up. Okay, you should have this set aside. I'm going to go ahead and fit the deer to be on the front of page 5 and cut it. Okay, so these are my little remnants I cut off. You know, these are really good for the back of tags. So if you're going to put tags inside of your album, you can use these small pieces. You can even make tags out of them if you have a tag maker, or you can cut a little hole here and put a ribbon through it, mount it on black, and make a tag. Okay, so you have lots of options, and these are perfect little trim pieces. If you ever cut something too short, you can actually take these little pieces and trim your shortage and fix it. Okay, so put these in your remnant pile and glue the deer down. In your remnant pile, you should find this 6x6 that we never used. I'm going to stay away from this, and I'm going to measure this to fit on here. So I'm going to go ahead and measure this to fit and glue it down. I'm going to cut this large piece off first and then the small piece. So the blue piece is down. We have those 2 remnant pieces. These 2. Go ahead and put those in your reserve. And we've got one last page. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but your reserve is pretty empty. So we still have this piece that we had cut that has the yellow on the back of it. And this is how I look at it. I want to save as much of this piece as I can. So what I'm going to do is, are you watching? I'm going to use this corner on the other side. So this is what I want you to do. You got your piece here. Take this corner, flip it over, and measure it. Okay, so you've got this up here. That way we can use the rest of this as much as possible. Okay, so go ahead, once again, top part, birdhouse, flip over, top left corner. Okay, then we all have the same remnants. Let's measure and cut. And by the way, I'm going to cut the large piece off the bottom first, and then the small piece. Okay, so what I have based on the other side now is I have this, and I have this whole piece that I can use later on. Okay, makes sense? So go ahead and put the small piece and the large piece in your reserve pile. Actually, that's kind of pretty. Without even thinking about it, I really kind of like the other side better. I'm going to use this side. You can use that side. But I kind of like that little bird trim that matches my cardinals down here. Kind of a happy mistake, but wasn't a mistake. So go ahead and glue yours down. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to make a kind of a half belly band. It's going to cover and go over this magnet to keep these down in our books so they don't flop around. All right, so you ready? I need you to go into your stock pile, and you should have a piece that looks like this. It's probably about 2.5 inches by 7, and we're going to use it for the belt band. I call it a belt. Some people call it a belly band. I don't know. It's up to you. So what we're going to do is I want you to go locate this in your reserve pile. This has been hanging out in there for quite some time now. This was that pretty little lamppost lantern, as I called it, that we die cut from the beginning and put on our cover. And this little bird on the left hand side is the reason we keep all the remnants. I want you to just slice off your die, and it should be approximately 1 3/8 that you're going to measure over and cut. So you just want to slice it and keep this little bird piece, and be right back. Okay, so this is what you should have. You can go ahead and put this in your stockpile, your reserve pile, you never know. And this is what we're going to use to cover the band. So we're going to use this to measure how wide we're going to slice this band. Do not cut off the top. All I want you to do is put this on here, leaving a little black border on one side. Okay? Don't worry about the bottom right now. Just leave yourself a small black border on one side and then measure a little black border on the other side. Okay? So basically you can see I've left a black border over here and a black border over here. Do not cut off the top. All I want you to do is cut straight down this side. Let me zoom back out again. Okay? So I just want you to cut off this piece and keep the big side, okay? We'll be right back. And this is what you should have. Go ahead and put the smaller piece in your stockpile. And if you measured right, this should sit on there and have a little black border. Okay? Okay, so get out your scoreboard. I want you to go ahead and lay your little strip that we just cut right across the top. I want you to score at 4.5, move over 1/8, and score again. Okay? So that's 4.5 and 4 5/8. Okay? We can go ahead and fold this. Okay, so what this is going to be a little band to keep these down inside of our page, inside of our album on our page. We need to put the magnet on the other side. So the easiest way to do this for marking purposes, and you can leave the glue on it and still put tape over it, what I want you to do is go ahead and have it find its, have it find its mate. Place your band with the spine. Okay, I'm going to try to do it this way. There we go. Place your band. Make sure your spine is flush right here, okay? Get it as centered as possible. If you need to measure this, then you go right ahead, okay? But you want it to be centered here. So I'm going to get it measured. Okay, so I measured. My little band is flush up against the bottom here, okay? I'm going to pinch right here so it doesn't move. Pull it back, put a tiny piece of glue, pop it, bring it back up, and that's where you're going to put your magnet. Now make sure that there's glue on here. Make sure that glue goes on this glue. Otherwise your magnet's not going to stick together because it's going to be upside down, and it's going to force it to fold away from it. It's going to push each other away. Funny how magnets only like each other one way. I personally am going to go ahead and put a tiny piece of score tape over the top of mine, and it is going to be very tiny because I do not want to go to the edges where my borders are, okay? While we have this out, turn it over so your flap is up, magnet up. Okay, in your reserve, you should have this. That one we cut off earlier. We're going to go ahead and measure that to fit on the back where the magnet is of this little band. So go ahead and measure it up, cut it. Look what we have, more little tiny remnants. Go ahead and put them in your remnant pile and go ahead and glue this down. I think I might have mentioned this once before, but it's worth mentioning again. Whenever you have a magnet in something and the magnet is pretty close, you're always going to notice that when you glue it down, it's going to leave like a little gap. I always use that score tape, and sometimes I place another little piece of score tape right above it. Like, so what I did right here was I put a little piece of score tape on before I put this down. So this is actually score tape down, and I don't have a gap where my magnet is. The rest of it's just glued. So it's just another little tip for me so that I don't have what I call magnet gap. Okay, so that's glued on. So go ahead and turn it over. Our little birds that we just sliced off the side of that other piece is what's going to go on the front. It's a little bit long, so go ahead and snip off the bottom. I'm not going to snip off the top. I'm going to snip off the bottom. I'm not going to snip it. Making sure that this fold is going down, okay, and it's at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and place this right on here. Okay, this should stick right on there. Magnet. Alright, so go ahead and place that down. Make sure it's nice and straight. Okay. Now here's what's important. Bowing, so you don't want it to bow. Okay. So hold it down a little tight. Go ahead and push both of your score marks forward, okay? The magnet's gonna push it back. You hold on tight, pinch, and tack it down. Okay, so we can now put our score tape on the back. Pretty cool, huh? Go ahead and turn it over, frame it, put several long strips. I'll do mine and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is a pretty heavy page. We don't want it popping off and we don't want it being weird, and we want it to lay nice and flat. So go ahead and make sure you put lots of score tape on it. Go ahead and make sure it's down nice and tight. Pull everything off, get your album out, and we'll place this page in. Okay, that is page 9. Now, since we are going to be starting with 10 next, before we move any further, I'm going to take my diamond stickles, just like I have before on the previous pages, and I'm going to do some blinging along this belt and on this page right here. And then once it's dry, I'm going to flip up and do under here. Okay, so let's just start with this part. So just little dots on the berry, like kind of like a highlight on each of the berries. I don't know if you, it's hard to see that, huh? And then I'm going to do the same with this top card. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and let that dry. And when I come back, after this is dry, I'm going to do the under piece. Okay? Okay, so I went ahead and I did a little bit of blinging on the bottom underneath of our waterfall and let it dry. Okay? So ready to move on to page 10. Alright, so let's get out a new piece of cardstock. We're starting page 10. And I want you to go ahead, measure over 8 inches and cut. This is what you should have. Go ahead and put the small piece in your stockpile and turn this way and measure over 6.5 inches and cut. This is what you should have. Go ahead and put the small piece in your stockpile, and we're going to go ahead and score this piece. So get your scoreboard out. On the 6.5 inch side, I want you to score at 5/8 and 1 inch. Okay? So score at 5/8 and then 1 inch. You can go ahead and fold this. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get out my deep edge punch, and I'm going to punch along the side that does not have the hinge. So the hinge is here, and I'm punching along the opposite side of the hinge. Alright, so this is what you should have. Punch on one side, hinge on the other. In your paper pad, I would like for you to locate this piece of paper. It's solid red on one side, and on the other side it has four 6x6s. So go ahead and cut the tab off the top. Okay, so looking at it on this side, I'd like you to measure over 4 1/8 and cut. This is what you should have. Go ahead and set this piece in your reserve, and we're going to take this piece, we're going to turn it over and measure it to fit. So all you have to do is cut off the top, okay? Leaving a small black border all the way around. Measure at the top, cut this piece off, and come back. Okay, this is what I have. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put the small red piece in my reserve. Make sure that this fits. Great. Okay. Before we glue this down, we're going to make a pocket on top. So in your reserve, you should have a piece that's like this. It's going to be 11 by 5.5. Okay. Go ahead and measure over 6 inches and cut. Go ahead and put the smaller piece in your stockpile and get out your deep edge punch, and along the 6-inch edge go ahead and punch. This is what you should have in your reserve, or possibly you set it aside. You should have a piece like this. On one side it's yellow with little berries, and this side has the cardinal. I want you to go ahead and lay this on here, leaving your border at the top, okay, however big you want it. Don't worry about the sides right now. I want you to go ahead and leave your little border at the bottom. Let me zoom in and just go ahead and cut this little strip off the bottom, okay? This is what I cut off. I am not going to keep this teeny little piece. Just making sure this fits top and bottom. Set it aside for a second. Go ahead and get out your piece of red that you just cut. Put a piece of score tape along the bottom of the edge. Secure it and pull the back off. Your little pocket. Place it so it's centered. Press it down, fold it over. Fold over your tabs and tack them down. Once you have them all tacked down, go back and get that piece that we just had that we were measuring with. And I'm going to keep the corner that has the cardinals and the berries. And I'm going to measure now on the right side to leave myself a small black border. Okay. Go ahead and measure on the left-hand side, and I'm going to cut this piece off. This is what you should have. Go ahead and put this in your reserve and glue this down. Alright, go ahead and bring back over the piece that we just did the border on. Make sure that your hinge is on the right and that it's folding under. Put glue on the back of this and glue it down. So go ahead and get out your diamond stickles and go ahead and bling up your little bird and berries. We'll set that aside to dry when we're done, okay? Okay, so we got that all on and that's all dry. In your reserve you should find this piece, and it has this little wagon wheel, and on the other side it looks like this. Before we put it down, we're going to make sure we put a magnet on this. But I want you to go ahead and measure this out. Yeah, this side, and I'm going to cut off the top. So I'm going to cut this piece first and then the top piece. Okay, this is what you should have. I'm going to go ahead and put this in my reserve. Double check that I measured everything correctly. Right before you lay this down, first of all, check to make sure that it measures out right. I want you to go ahead and put a magnet on here. So I'm going to grab my magnets. In case you are unfamiliar with our magnets, they are fabulous. They come in a pack like this, and they're stacked, and they are extremely strong. So, and they're very thin, so they don't leave your paper all bulky. So go ahead and grab two. Set one aside, and go ahead and put one right there. Don't get too close to the edge. Once again, you know me, I'm going to use a little bit of tape. Put it down. Alright. Now, we are not going to glue this down yet. I want you to set this part aside for a second. And in your reserve, you should have a piece of cardstock in your cardstock reserve. It's a little under 5 inches by 5.5. Okay, so I want you to take the piece we just cut, put this in the portrait so it's the shorter way this way. I just want you to lay it on top of it, push it up against the edge. Okay, and measure the width. Don't worry about the top, just worry about the width. Okay. And just slice this small piece right off, so it should be the exact same width as this piece. Now, in your reserve, you should have this. It looks like this on one side and has the little cardinal on the other side. What I want you to do, I'm just going to set this over here for a second. Set it on there. It's going to have a pretty large border, but that's okay. Match the border all the way around. All right? Let me zoom in. Match the border all the way around so it looks like this. Just turn it and make a little mark with your black border at the top. So this border, and this border pretty much are going to match all the way around, okay? A little mark. And we're going to score there and then move 1/8 of an inch to the right and score. So let's get your scoreboard out. Alright, so this isn't going to measure up. Remember, we're just using the little marks that we made. Sorry, I have a little mark there. Measure your first mark up to any score line, just as long as it matches up to a score line. Okay? Go ahead and score. Move 1/8 of an inch to the right and score. So your first mark, you're going to score on it. Move 1/8 to the right and score. So if you put this back on, just for measuring purposes, you should have the same border all the way around, including up here. So go ahead and fold over your score marks. And then you can go ahead and glue this piece down on top with the fold under. Okay? In your reserve, you should have a small piece of red like this. It's blue on the back with a little curly thing. It should fit almost perfect on here. If it doesn't, make sure you cut it up to fit it. Mine's short a tiny bit down here. So also in your reserve, you should have this. It's a little belt and it's got some little red lace at the bottom. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut between these two pieces right here. This is what you should have. I'm going to use the red one and put the little belted one back in my reserve. So what I'm gonna do is, I think I'm gonna put this one at the top. So moving this as far down as I can, keeping a very small border. Don't go over your folds down here, okay? Go ahead and glue this down first, and then we'll make this fit at the top. Take this piece, after you glue that red one down, match it up, leave a little border at the top, and go ahead and make a line and snip that off so that it fits. And I'm going to go ahead and glue it down. I'll just throw this in my reserve. Okay, so that's pretty cool. All right, go ahead and get this piece out, and this is going to go at the top. That's why we made it measure. All right, so what you want to do is you want to bring both of your score marks to the front. Okay, fold it down, pinch it, turn it over, and tack it down. Bring your spine back up flush. There you go. You can go ahead and bring this piece back out. And we are going to attach this to the back. This is the piece that has this fold on the front. We're going to attach this to the back, okay? So go ahead and put glue on, take off your little backing on your score tape, and place this down. All right, press it all down. Okay, there you go. Okay, so go ahead and go get the back of page 10, and we're going to go ahead and attach this. So make sure that your spine on the right side of this is all the way, all the folds are forward. Place it up against this nice and tight. Make sure that you're even both ways here. Okay. Pinch it down, turn it over, and tack it down. Pull your spine back and flatten it. Go ahead and go get your mate to your magnet. Let it find its mate. Put a piece of tape on it. Okay. And that takes care of adding the other magnet. All right, we're ready to go ahead and put score tape on the back of this. Go ahead and frame it as usual. Put a single piece, 2 small pieces, and we'll put it in our album. Score tape on. Make sure it's all down nice and tight. Pull the back off the score tape and put it in your album. So page 10 is done, but we just need to add a little bit of bling to it. So if you want to open up and get out your diamond stickles, we can put diamond stickles here and diamond stickles here. And if you'd like, you could put some maybe in the trees. Okay, we have to let that dry anyway, so let's go ahead and put on our diamond stickles, set it aside to dry. So let's get our bling out, and let's bling this up a little bit. I'm going to put a little row of bling right here, and then I'm going to go ahead and open it up and put a little bling right along the edge here, and a little bling right along this seam up here. So first of all, let's go ahead and measure out our bling. Alright, as usual, I'm putting in a little 1/4 inch flat back bling right to the center of my little flower. Now I put a card in here so we don't glue it down. Okay, I'm going to take one of my holly berries, my 3D holly berries. That's where I'm going to place my berries. I'm going to glue those down. Make sure that card doesn't get stuck under there. Once again, I'm going to stick a little piece of paper back here, and I'm going to do the same thing. Can't have bling in one place and not bling in another. I'm going to put a little bit of glue and put my little blings in the centers of each of these little flowers. I think I've mentioned it before, but a girl can never have too much bling. And neither can her mini albums. So bling, bling, bling. I'm going to go ahead and add 1 strip of single strand bling to the bottom of each one of these, okay? And then I'm also going to run it all the way around this little half belt. So as you can see on page 9, I went ahead and I added some bling to the bottom of all of my waterfall pages around my half belt, and then some little berries right up here. And I went ahead and let them just kind of fall off the edge. I like that idea. Okay, let's zoom back out so you can see. I'm waiting for this to dry, and then I'm going to turn it over and do some blinging on the other side. Okay, so here's what I decided to do. I went ahead and added some white lace at the top here. A little bling there, some berries, bling, bling, bling. On the other side, I did the same thing. I backed them up, put a little bling along the edge right here, and this page should be done. Ready to move on to page 11 and 12, last 2 pages. Okay, so in your paper pad, you should locate this nice piece of green paper. On one side, it looks like this. It's all these cards and everything, and on the other side it looks like this. So go ahead and cut the tab off the top and throw it away. Okay, this is what you should have. Now what I'd like you to do is turn it over to this side, and we're going to try to preserve these little cards down here. So go ahead and measure over 8 inches and cut. Remember, you're looking at it this way. Okay, this is what you should have. I'm going to go ahead and put this in my reserve and save it for later. Go ahead and take this, turn it over, measure over 6 inches, and cut. Okay, this is what you should have. Go ahead and set these aside for right now. Okay, so let's get out a fresh sheet of cardstock and put it landscape on your scoreboard. First of all, I would like for you to score at 5.5. Okay, then turn it portrait and score it at 4.25. So basically you just scored down the middle both directions. Then what I'd like for you to do is cut right here to here. So you're going to be on the landscape. You're going to start with this little score that you just made, and I just want you to cut straight across this score and stop right where everything meets in the middle. All right, once you've completed that, you should have your slice right here on this, on the left hand side, between the 2 squares on the left. Go ahead and fold bottom left piece to the right. Now it might help to get your bone folder out and keep these scores nice and tight. Okay, now you're going to take the bottom right corner and fold it straight up. Once again, you want to make sure you keep your folds nice and straight. Here's your bone folder if it helps, and press it down. And the last one is going to be this one. You're going to fold it over. Sorry, okay, then fold the last one over and press it down. So this is what you should have. Let me roll out, okay? So back to original. Okay, so you fold over, up, and over. Make sure everything's nice and tight, and you have all your... Okay, for right now, let's just set this aside because we're going to make the envelope flap for it. So I need you to get out a fresh piece of black cardstock. Okay, I want you to measure over 5 3/4 and cut. Go ahead and put the smaller piece in your reserve. And then I want you to go ahead and get out your Sophia. And we're going to place her at the top. In order to get her centered, I'm going to go ahead and make a mark right there. So at 2 7/8 on the portrait, go ahead and make a little mark. Okay. Go ahead and take Sophia, place her as close to the top as you can, evenly, and then go ahead and cut this out. Okay, so this is what you should have when you're done. What we're going to do is we're going to take the piece that we just folded up, and I'm sorry if you can hear the noise next door. The guys are really busy over there today. And this is the side that has kind of the embossing, so if you flip it over. So this piece that we just folded, we're going to place it right here. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to use the Sophia as a envelope flap. So we're going to do some scoring. Oh, and by the way, hopefully when you cut your Sophia out, it released itself because it was really close to the edges, and if it was off, you might have a little tiny edge. I know on this side mine was flush. Over here I have a little teeny edge. Unless it's major, you can cut it off, but I'm not going to worry about that teeny little edge. So what I want you to do is take your ruler, and mine's upside down so you can see it, go right to the edge of my Sophia. So let me get some paper here. There. So I'm going right to the edge where the paper starts, not the Sophia. I'm going to measure down 1 1/8 and 1 1/4. Okay? And we're going to score on those lines. Let's get your scoreboard out. Those score marks that we just made, line them up with a score. It doesn't matter which number it is, just line up the little mark, score, and the first one and the second one, they should be 1/8 of an inch apart. Okay, so we're just scoring on those two little marks we made. Go ahead and fold. And so this is going to be the envelope flap. Okay, now go ahead and set this on here like this. Open it up, place this so that you have an even amount of black space all the way around. Okay, so that's about 1/8 of an inch at the top on both sides. I'm going to turn it so I can make a pencil mark and show you. And down here I'm going to make a pencil mark at about 1/8 of an inch, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. So this is what I cut off. Ended up being about 1 inch exactly. I'm going to go ahead and throw that in my reserve. Now this piece that we folded all up should fit on there nicely. Okay, in your reserve you should find this. If you cut it off a little while ago, this has got that little piece of fence on it. And on the other side it's got some berries. We're going to use that to cover the top of this. What you're going to do is you're going to take your Sophia and use it as a guide. I'm going to go ahead and fold this piece out so that Sophia is at the bottom. The fold is this way, okay? So it'd be peek up. Sorry, I got my little magnets. Always have my little magnet stickers so I can remind myself and you. So this is the piece we're going to cut for the top of this. So right now, I'm just going to lay it on here. And I'm going to show you exactly what I'm doing here. Alright, so this is going to be a 1/16 of an inch away from the first score mark. I've got about a 1/16 of an inch on the left hand side. Hold it down tight. Set Sophia right on top so she lines up with herself. Take your pencil and make your lines. Now, we should be able to cut. You can see the little lines. I know it's hard to tell, but you can kind of see my little lines. I apologize, the guys are really noisy. Just cut that, and it should fit right inside here. Okay, so everything looks like it fits really well. I just want to go ahead and measure on this side. Give it about a 1/16 of an inch and slice this little piece off. Okay? So I'm going to throw this little teeny piece in my reserve along with all the other little teeny pieces I have left. If you have any pencil marks, you can go ahead and erase those off. Alright, so this should fit perfectly right on top of this. Make sure again that your Sophia, so your fold is going down, and go ahead and glue this down. We of course will be blinging this up, but for right now, just make sure that you don't go over any of your spine creases that you scored, and that's what it should look like. So go ahead and open this up. This is the side we put the pretty paper on, and get out a magnet. I'm just going to set the mate aside for right now, and I'm going to go ahead and put a magnet right up in here. That's going to be really close, so you might not be able to put score tape on it unless you're really careful. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue this one down. Right up in that peak. Don't go inside the circles, the little cutouts. Okay? And go ahead and let that dry. In your reserve, you should have a small piece of green like this. It should fit perfectly. And I don't mean literally perfectly, but we're going to do the same thing with Sophia. We're going to just set it here, giving it about a 1/16 of an inch black here and on one side. Place your Sophia on exactly the same way, right on top of herself. Make your lines, fussy cut it out, and it'll go right there. Okay? Okay, so this is barely going to fit over your magnet. So I want you to be really careful. What you might want to do is use a little bit of score tape just right on top of the magnet and kind of cut it this way just to keep it down nice and taut. If it gives you a little bit of a bad time, don't worry, it's underneath so it won't show as much, okay? So we're going to glue this down, and like I said, I'm probably going to use a little bit of score tape and cut some really small pieces. This might help a little bit. These magnets are really thin, but sometimes a little extra help to keep the paper from not coming up. This might help. Okay? Alright, so I got a little bit of score tape. I'm going to take my green piece. There, sorry if I got my head in the way. So get out your green piece that we cut earlier. It really doesn't matter which one. You know, I think this one has a little darker edge right up here on the left hand side, so that's kind of the one I chose. Take the piece that we just covered with your Sophia. Make sure she's folded down with your hinge at the top. Push your hinge all the way down flat. I want you to place this piece evenly so that you have the same border space all the way around at the bottom, okay? So what we're going to do, if it makes it easier for you, and it's my own personal preference, is I'm actually going to make some little pencil marks on the bottom corners. Just one right here and here, and right here and here, so that I can see my even space. And they're going to be hard to see on this green, but what you're going to do is turn the Sophia piece over. Do not put glue at the top, just put glue, a very thin line as close to the edge as you can all the way around. This is where this beautiful little metal glue tip comes in handy. So just a small glue line all along. Okay, just a small glue line. Okay, again, Sophia's at the top. We turned it over. Put this back on your little notches that you made. Try not to wiggle it around because this is going to be a pocket. And once again, if you smear the glue too deep inside, you're not going to have a very wide pocket. You're not going to be able to get much in here, okay? So we're going to let that dry. So you can see here that we're going to have a pocket. Of course, we're going to put something bigger than that in there, but it is going to be a nice little pocket. So now you can go ahead and go get this. This is the thing, and I know I have my magnet, that's my reminder. This is the one that folded out this way. Make sure that it is folded this way, okay? So it opens to the right, down, and back out, okay? It's important that it does that. Lift the Sophia envelope lid open. And again, we're going to place this so that it's evenly spaced all the way around, so you have about 1/8 of an inch of black showing, okay? If you want to make your little pencil marks again, you can. Say, turn it over and put glue on the back. So once you have your glue on the back, once again place this so it's centered on the pocket we just made with the Sophia die. I'm using my little marks. This is not a pocket, so just go ahead and lay it down flat. And when you're done, it should open like this, okay? Go ahead and get your other magnet out and place it on its mate. Put a tiny bit of glue down just for a marker. Make sure this is all closed up, nice and tight. Pop it down. There's your little glue mark. Make sure that your magnet goes glue to glue. Okay. I'm placing a small piece of tape across mine like I usually do. And we'll get ready to cover these pages. Okay, so in your paper pad you should find this. On one side it has the bells and the cardinals, and then on the other side it looks like this. Go ahead and cut the tab off the top and throw it away. And then I would like to use these 3 pieces right here. So just go ahead and measure over right between them. And I don't think that it's 6 inches because these are 6 inches. So let's look and see. Looks like it's about 5 1/8. So what I want you to do is I just want you to cut right between the 6x6s and the smaller cards on the left, okay? So this is what you should have. Go ahead and keep these and set this in your reserve. Now I want you to go ahead and cut between this one and this one and this one and this one. So cut here and cut here. It's right between these borders. This is what you should have. And the only thing left is this little piece down here. So let's set this aside for right now. And let's work with these. So the first one we're going to use is going to be the one with the circle and the cardinals. And this is going to leave a little bit bigger black border than you're used to. So let me get my white piece of paper out and show you. I'm just going to stick it in here for a second. So this is the opening. I'm just sticking a cardstock in there so you can see how big of the border is going to be. So this is going to leave a little bit bigger border than we're used to, but you know what? I'm going to put gold stickles all the way around the outside and create a little gold border on it, okay? So let's go ahead and glue that down in the center. I'm going to go ahead and remove the score tape from my magnet so that I can make sure that that's down nice and tight. Place this in the center. And I'm not going to add the stickles till later because it takes so long to dry. So I'm going to place all the cards first, and then we'll come back and add the stickles, okay? So the magnet should hold that down, but we're not done. Okay, so now that you have this one on, go ahead and open this way. Okay. And I want you to get your piece of red that's in your reserve that looks like this. On one side it looks like this, on the other side it looks like this. To make them all be consecutive, I'm just going to push this up here. I'm going to go get one of my other cards I just cut. They're all the same size, okay? I'm going to turn this landscape. And what you need to do is just place the little card right here in the corner and measure. Now we should be able to get 4 red pieces out of this to cover the backs of these. So measure. Okay, so you got your little pencil marks, and go ahead and cut the large piece off first, and then cut this piece. So this is what you should have. One of these is just going to be a slight bit bigger than the other one. I mean, barely. So set this one aside, the bigger one. Okay, and take your piece that you cut that matches this. Okay, whoops, excuse me. And go ahead and place this in the center. Center this on the piece that's glued down, okay? Like I said, we're going to put gold stickles around the edges, so don't worry about it. We're just going to keep the borders consistent so that they don't look awkward. Okay, got that red one? Now just move your piece over to this. So go ahead, now you have your red one here, just move over. You have a blank spot here. This is the one that folds down, okay? Go ahead and take the cardinals. It has that same little red border that matches this. Glue it down in the center. See, now let me zoom back out a little bit. Fold out. And I made my little notes because this red piece is going to go here. Okay, so red cardinals. Go ahead and glue this piece down. Now you should have one more card left. All I want you to do is cut this little piece off the bottom that says wishing you a Merry or a Blessed Christmas. I'll be right back. Okay, so after you cut that off, go ahead and place this one right here and glue it down. So this is where we should be. You have one more fold out, the one that was cut, with 2 more spots here, okay? So you have another piece of red. Once again, we're going to measure it to match one of these. So I'm just going to take it up here, and I'm just using this as a guide, making my little cut there, or making my little mark there, making my little mark there, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut, oops, sorry, I'm going to cut the big piece off first, and then this small piece, okay? So this is what I have. You can see on the back that I have a nice piece like this with all the berries. This is the piece, this piece and the small piece I'm going to go ahead and put in my reserve, and this red piece is going to go right here. So now I cut all of these so they have the same border. So I don't have any with bigger borders, okay? In your reserve, you should have this. It looks like yellow on back, and then it has the little bells. I'm going to use this bottom left corner for my last square. So I'm going to measure. I'm butting it up against my red one that I just have here. I'm going to make my pencil mark. So it's going to be cut up this way. And I'll measure it this way. Sorry, looks like I had some pencil marks on there from before. So I'm going to cut this corner right here to be for this last piece. This is what you should have. This is the piece that we're putting over here. You have these two little remnants. Okay, go ahead and put them in your remnant pile. Put glue on the back of this last piece and glue it down. Okay, so you can go ahead and fold this back up for now. Okay, fold it back in, close it back up, and hopefully everything stays in place. Pretty nice, huh? This little piece that we cut off earlier says wishing you a blessed Christmas. I'm actually going to just tack it right at the bottom of this piece right here. I like it. Okay? So just put a little piece of glue on it and tack it down. So it looks just like that. I just tacked it right underneath the little white piece, the border. Once again, I'm not going to do bling until last, or I mean not bling, but stickles. I'm going to put the gold stickles around, but it takes a while to dry, so I want it to be my last thing. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of lace to the top. So go ahead and fit your lace across the top, cut it, and apply it down. I love this lace. It reminds me so much of snowflakes. Get out your bling and go ahead and put some bling right along the edge of this like we did before. So I went ahead and put bling around the whole top of this, and I'm going to run some bling all the way around. Let me zoom out, sorry. I'm going to run bling all the way around the outside of the piece, this extra piece that we put down that belonged to the die. Now really be careful when you're adding glue to this that you don't glue this down, okay? So just be really careful how much glue you put. If you seep too much over, you're going to glue your little flaps down. So be very careful. Apply your glue, lay down your bling, and then let it dry. So I think that bling really helps pick up and get rid of that extra black border that we had, okay? Adds a lot to it. And I also added a little flat back 1/4" bling to the center of my Sophia die. So I put a little card back there just in case, because I don't want to glue her down, okay? Now, I told you earlier that I was going to go ahead and put gold stickles around the edges. It just kind of extends that border and makes it look like it's a little wider, but you will have to be very careful to make sure that this dries, okay? So don't stick your fingers in it, don't touch it, let it dry, and move on to something else, okay? Go have lunch or something. I added a little berry, one of my little 3D berries up here in the corner, and I also added a little bit of my 3D berries in the bottom corner here. So after everything dries, I'm going to open it up and put the rest of the gold around. Time to go have a break. Okay, so overnight the elves magically put the rest of my glitter on, or my stickles. I'm joking. Anyway, got all my stickles on, everything is dry. I think this is done. Of course, well, when we make our mats, we can always put some little secrets in our little pocket. So let's go ahead and put our square tape on the back. Make sure you put a frame, put center, and I'm going to do 3 long ones in the center because this is a little bit heavier, and place it in your album. Score tape on. All right, that's page 11. I'm so excited to move on to page 12. Alright, so it is the last page. Now remember, we have this other piece of green set aside, but we're not going to use it just yet. We need to start creating some of the fun stuff to go on it. So time to get out a new piece of cardstock. And at the landscape, I want you to measure over 6 inches and cut. Go ahead and put the smaller piece in your stockpile. And then I want you to go ahead and turn this way. And measure over 5.5 inches and cut. Go ahead and put the smaller piece in your stockpile, turning this so that it's a 6, oops, let me get this out of your way. Turning this so it's the 6 inches across. I want you to get out your deep edge punch and go ahead and punch right across the top. Okay, so this is what you should have. Go ahead and get out your scoreboard. Okay, with your punch edge on the right, I want you to score at 3/4 of an inch and 7/8. Okay, 3/4 and 7/8. Go ahead and fold. Okay, so I've got that all folded. I went ahead and put both of the scores all the way to the back. Okay, in your stockpile you should have this. It's got those pretty bells at the top. I'm actually going to use this little bottom piece. So I'm going to fit the bottom left corner that has these little swirls, leaving myself about a 1/16 of an inch border. Okay, and you go ahead and measure. So go ahead and cut off this top piece first and then a small piece down the side and come on back. This is what you should have. Go ahead and put the larger piece in the little tiny strip in your reserve and go ahead and glue this down. Okay, so we're going to set this aside for just a second. I want you to go into your reserve and get a piece of this black cardstock out. It's approximately 5 1/4 by 8 1/2. Okay, go ahead and measure over 6 1/2 inches on the landscape and cut. This is what you should have. Go ahead and put the small piece in your stockpile. Go ahead and turn it portrait. Go ahead and get out your 1/2 inch paper punch, and I just want you to punch across the top and the bottom. Alright, sometimes I don't like these funny little edges. I don't know if you can see that little funky point. I'm just going to cut that little point off. Another little tip is that depending on the type of punch that you're using, it'll leave raw and open edges. So kind of like on this one, if you don't like this raw open edge, you can take a little tiny piece of black cardstock and just cut it and glue it right on both sides, and it will extend it and make it look like it's closed. And that again is kind of a personal preference, just like my personal preference about wanting to cut off those funny little tips. Okay, your paper pad, you should have one last beautiful piece of this. We haven't used it in a while. I've been saving it. I want you to go ahead and take it out. It looks like this on one side, and it's got all these cute little cards on the other. Go ahead and cut the tab off and come right back. So since we have all these cute little cards on one side, and they're probably going to be great to put in your album at the end for some of your little insert mats, so we can preserve a few of these. Just have it this way. Turn it straight over. Go ahead and measure over 5 inches. Again, remember, we're just taking it this way, flipping it straight over, measure over 5 inches, and cut. This is what you should have. Keep the smaller piece and set this one aside. Okay. I'm measuring this to fit on here. So, get out the piece that we just punched, turn it sideways. This should fit right on top of here with a little border all the way around. Go ahead and set it on here. I want you to measure it here. Go ahead and cut it off and come right back. This is what you should have. This piece should fit perfectly on here. This is going to go on the back, so just set it aside for now. Now we're not going to glue this down yet, okay? Okay, so on the back of the piece that the bigger piece that we just cut off, remember I told you we have some of these little cards, we're going to go ahead and just cut off this top 2 cards, and I want this one. So cut this piece off and then cut this off and keep this little green card with the lamp post on it, okay? I'll be right back and show you what I got. Okay, so this is what you should have. This larger piece, these pieces. We're going to keep this one, set it here, and go ahead and put this in your reserve. Okay, in your reserve you should have a piece of cardstock like this, 3 1/2 by 4 1/4. The little card we just cut out should fit perfectly with a little over 1/4 of an inch on the side. Okay, so we are going to put a score right on the side. So if you measure with your little border right there, we're going to score down that line. Okay, so let's get our scoreboard out. Put your little mark that you made with your pencil up against any of the score lines. as long as it lines up with one of the scores. And go ahead and score. Fold. Okay, go ahead and get out this red piece. Make sure that it is portrait. It's a little shorter this way. I want you to take the black piece that we just scored, okay? And I want you to place it centered right in the middle of this. If you need to measure, you go right ahead. Okay, I just want you to center it with the fold down so it is not flapped out. Make sure that you are only centering everything right in the center of this. So you will have a little more on the side. It's about 7/8 of an inch. Okay, so this is the hinge side. Again, this is the hinge side. Turn it. This makes it easier for me. Take your pencil, and I want you to make a line right along the hinge, the exact length of this side of the black, from here to here. If it helps you, you can make a little mark this direction. Everything is erasable, okay? So you should have a line. I don't know if you can see it on this. There's a line right there. We are going to cut right along that line, okay? So go ahead and get out your cutting board. All right. For some people, including me, I have a metal edge, and at home I have an actual metal ruler. It makes it easier for me to make my cut if I have this ruler with the metal edge. If you have a plastic one, it'll probably cut it. So you might want to invest in a metal ruler. I want you to cut right along that line. Try not to extend beyond the little hash marks that you made. So I'm going to turn it so you can actually see better. So I'm going to cut right along that line. Now we did this before when we did our waterfall, so you guys are already familiar with this. So let's go ahead and cut. Okay, so you go ahead and take your little piece with the hinge, place it in there, erase any pencil marks. It should fit in there nice and snug. Okay, make sure it goes all the way in. Okay. Alright, so that's what you should have. Hinge opening, hinge on the left, opens on the right, opens to the right, or to, sorry, hinge on your left, opens to the left. Okay, so go ahead and turn it over. Get your hinge in there. I'm going to go ahead and push this little piece back for a second. And we're going to glue our hinge down. Now if you have score tape, either 1/8 of an inch score tape or whatever, you can use that as well. This is going to be backed a couple times, so I'm okay with it being glued. Okay, turn it back over, push this little piece back. Okay, and there you go. The little card that we cut out earlier, the one with the little lantern, it should fit on here perfectly. Go ahead and glue it down, and then we're going to do the inside. Alright, so we need to put a little magnet on the back, so go ahead and open it up and put your magnet on the left hand side here. I'm not going to get too close to the edge. You know how I feel about magnet bumps. Okay, so you got your magnet. We'll go ahead and close it. Grab the magnet's friend. Find its mate, okay? And put a little piece of tape or glue that one down now too. Okay? So this is going to stay closed. Okay. So for the inside, I would like for you to locate this piece in your reserve. It's got the little holly berries on one side and it's red on the other. I'm going to go ahead and measure this to fit and cut it, but don't glue it down yet. Okay? So I'm going to cut this big piece off first and then this small piece. I'll be right back. This is what you should have. The piece that fits there, go ahead and put this in your reserve. Also in your reserve, you should have this little belt. What we're going to do is I'm just going to place it right along the edge here. I'm going to kind of make like a corner belly band. I love the little buckle, so I want that part to show. So basically what you want to do, I'm going to move this up for just a second. Okay, so take your little belt, fold it under, okay? Make sure it's kind of snug. And then I'm going to turn it over. Sorry, turn it over. Fold this one over. Okay, so you have a little belt on the end, the corner of this. Go ahead and glue that down. Make sure it stays nice and snug. Okay, so that's what you should have. Take this piece. I'm going to pull off the backing of my score tape for my magnet, put some glue on the back of this, and put it down. Okay, so that's what you should have. Go ahead and bring out the piece that we did the punching on the top and bottom. And this should fit right on top. Okay, so go ahead and glue this piece down. Make sure you don't get any glue in your little... Alright, so we're going to just set this aside for just a second. I want you to go back and get your back of your page, the green back of your page, sorry. Okay. And I want you to get the piece that we made earlier with the beautiful stamp across the top of it, or the punch, paper punch. Green on the back, pretty yellow and green on the front. We're going to go ahead and attach this piece to the bottom of this page. So put all your scores to the front. So make sure both folds are on the front. Push it to the bottom. Now there really isn't any wrong or right to the bottom or top of this, it's your preference. I happen to have a little darker corner in the top right up here, just my preference. So I'm going to pinch this all the way, make sure it's even on both sides, okay? Pinch, turn it over, and tack it down. Okay, once you've tacked that down, make sure that you push this back down so that your spine is flush at the bottom, okay? Alright. Now taking the piece that we just created, be sure that your fold is readable, okay? We're going to place this right on top of this piece right here. You want to center it as best as you can, okay? And I'm going to make marks once I get it on there. So I'm leaving pretty much the same distance here as I am here, here, and here. I'm just going to take a little pencil, and I can get rid of this later, okay? Maybe a little, right? I just kind of made some little marks. Now, here's what's important. We're going to go ahead and put glue on here. And you can put it here too, but since I already know that I can't go past these, I'm just going to put my glue on here between the two marks that I made, and don't pass here. So basically I'm just going to put just a little bit of glue right in here. Okay? So I can put some across the top for sure. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue. Alright? Now this dries clear, so it's okay. Go ahead and mark up, I'm going to match up the bottom ones first that I just made. Okay? Now, if it makes you nervous that your glue might go over the edge, get a piece of paper and just place it in there, okay? There. That's just for safety purposes. Go ahead and let that dry for a second. Well, this is what we should have so far. This is hinging down, okay? This is the way it's supposed to be. Go ahead and hinge it down and put a magnet right at the top of this piece that we just glued down, okay? So pull it, hinge it down, and put a magnet right there. Now, I have another little reminder up here, but I also have another half of a magnet sitting out here waiting for me. All right, so in your reserve, you should have, actually, no, I'm sorry, not in your reserve. As set aside, we set this other piece aside. It should measure the same width as the red piece that's on the front of here. If you want to turn this and measure it, all I did was set it on here, okay? Let me zoom in. Okay, so this is your piece. Measure it, the length of it, and make a little pencil mark. Okay, so just measure, make a little pencil mark, and go ahead and cut this little piece off right here. Be right back. This is what I have. I'm going to go ahead and put this in my reserve. I'm going to take this back again like it was. Okay, let me zoom out so you can see the clear picture. All right, so that's what you should have. This is your page up here. This is the bottom of your page. Okay, this piece that we just cut, we're going to place it right here. Okay, so go ahead and put some glue on this and place it down, and I'm going to go ahead and take the back of my score tape off my magnet. Okay, all right, that's all glued down, and I had you set aside this little Christmas sentiment. I want you to go ahead and cut around it, fussy cut all the way around it. And in your reserve, you could find a piece of small cardstock. This is just one of the little reserves I found. I'm going to glue it on, leaving a little bit of a black border, and then I'm going to cut the black border around it too. So I'm going to leave a shape, the same shape black border, okay? This is what I have, and I'm going to go ahead and glue that right at the top of this, okay? All right, that's what you should have. So go ahead and close this up, turn it over, find the mate, get the mate to your magnet, pop it on, and put a little piece of tape over the top of your magnet, okay? And that should keep that from flopping open. I'm going to go ahead and get your lace out, cut a piece to fit, and go ahead and attach it to the top. I've opened this up and I'm at the top of the page. This is my fold out at the bottom. So you're going to attach your lace just like before, right at the top of your page. Okay? I'm going to take some of my smaller berries that I made, and I'm just going to go ahead and glue those up in the corner. I'm going to go ahead and get my bling out, and I'm going to put bling all the way around the edge of this. Okay, so I'm going to run a string of pearls across the top of this and across the bottom down here. So once that was dry, I went ahead and flipped it over, and I added a little rim of trim of bling and the back of this bling so that it matches. Alrighty, and we should be done with this page. So you can go ahead and put score tape on the back and put it in your album. Back of page 12 is already score taped. I'm going to go ahead and pull the backing off the score tape and place it in my album. Alright, that's page 12. So guys, we're going to take a little review of our album. I am back at page 3 and 4. And I'm going to take my flat back pearls and do a little extra blinging. I'm going to add a row of flat back pearls to the bottom of this page and the bottom of this page. So let's go ahead and cut and glue those down. Now we are on 5 and 6. I'm going to take some of my hollies that I did not paint red, and they match over here. I'm going to go ahead and tuck up some berries right in this corner. Let me zoom in. Okay, so I'm just going to glue some of my berries right along so it just kind of tucks a little bit underneath of my flower right there. Okay, on page 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, just inside the fold on our little lace pocket, I'm going to go ahead and place some berries right there, the smaller berries. They're nice and flat, so they should work really well right there. Okay, so here's the collection of what I'm putting on the cover so you know. I cut 2 little birds out of a piece of the stock that I had left over with the bells. So I have two little birds, okay? 2 large poinsettias, a medium and 2 small. 2 smaller berry clusters and 3 large berry clusters. We already have a smaller cluster on the cover with the lamppost. So I'm getting ready to put some leaves together, and I think I told you I made my leaves out of the poinsettias and I just turned them green and then I shined them up. I cut them individually and stick them underneath. So I'm getting everything ready to go and we'll decorate. Make sure you get out your zots, okay, after you're finished fussy cutting your birds and getting all your flowers made. So I guess what I want you to start with, make it simple. Let's run a row of bling just inside the cut edges all the way around the front and the back. Just along the spine, on the right side of your spine, I'm going to run a line of flat back white pearls, okay? Okay, so double sets of pearls, bling all the way around, bling all the way around, okay? For the side of our spine, I'll be using the Tim Holtz ornate plates, and I'm going to use one of the oval ones. It's like the lighter, almost kind of antique silver one. Okay? In your reserve, you probably have a couple pieces that are like this. and hopefully you can preserve any of these. All you gotta do is take and make a little pencil mark, and you can put any of these little tags inside here. I happen to have one of the ones that says joy in red, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this out to fit inside of there, and I'll be right back. There you go. So you can just glue that in, and then go ahead and get the little brads that go with it, and insert them in the holes and press the little tabbies back. There you go. Now, I went ahead and I bent those down and towards the center, and then I just sometimes just throw a little glue on them just so that they don't roll around before I put this on the side of my spine. Alright, so I've got a little row of pearls at the top, a little row of pearls. So I basically framed the entire spine with pearl trim. I'm going to go ahead and get ready to attach my Tim Holtz ornate plate. Put some glue on it, make sure it's going the right direction. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of stickles right here to match the rest of everything else, okay? A little bit of stickles around here, and I put a little bit up in my trees just to kind of make the snow look like it's glistening. Now we got to let that dry. Alright, so I just propped this up so that we can keep it nice and level. So one of the first things I'm going to do is fussy cut out this little cardinal. I'm going to make it look like it's sitting right here. So I'm going to put a couple little zots behind it, and then I'm going to set it so that it looks like it's just on the other side of this lamppost. So I'm putting zots on the back of my little cardinal. Be careful when you pull the backing off your zots, which is not always the easiest thing to do, that you don't rip your cardinal in half, because it's this pretty small little cutout. There we go. There you go. And I'm going to place him right up here. Yeah, now he's actually popping up a little further than the lamppost, so it kind of gives your cover a little bit more dimension. My second little cardinal. Again, I'm going to turn him over. I'm double zotting. He's going to sit right on this post. I'm going to get one of my larger berries underneath of my little cardinal, okay? So we're going to glue this one right down there. And I'm going to get one of my larger poinsettias. I'm going to place it right there. I'm going to get a leaf, stick a leaf right there. Next, I'm getting my medium-sized poinsettia, tuck it right there. Get a little medium leaf, stick it under there. Smaller berry, right there. Getting the smaller of the three size poinsettias. Tuck it right there. And my last little poinsettia, it's a smaller one. Tuck it right in there. And tuck it in there. You get a small leaf. Tuck it in there. Large, tucking it up a little bit under here so it looks like it's coming out from underneath of those. I'm going to take one of my larger ones and I'm just going to snip off a little tiny piece. Okay, so I just snipped off a little teeny piece and put some glue. Make sure that the stem is tucked up underneath. I'm going to tuck it right under here. Got one more large poinsettia. I'm going to put this one right here, as not to go over my cardinal that's right there. You could always go cut out another cardinal and put it there. Here's another piece that I cut that one little slice off of hollies. Tuck it right there. One more small holly. We're hollying it up. I'm going to tuck this one right there. I'm going to get me a leaf. Tuck it right in there. So I took this, trying to see what with this 3/8 inch white ribbon with this 3/16 inch red, and I just put them together so I have a cute little ribbon for the side of my closure. I'm going to go ahead and get my hook. I'm going to go ahead and place this through, just threading it through the holes of my hook from my hook and eye set. Now make sure everything's dry before you do this, okay? what I normally do is I bring it out square, leaving plenty of room for mats, because if you squeeze it like this, okay, and you close it really tight with the hook, you're not going to be able to get any mats in there, and you're definitely not going to be able to get pictures on the mats because it's going to break it open. So you just want to give yourself some space. Okay, so we're adding the ribbon. Basically, I just hooked it in to the hook. I'm sorry. I'm taking the hot glue gun and I'm pulling the ribbon back. Put a little glue. Pop that ribbon back there. Made a little bow. And I'm just going to put that right on the top. Okay? There you go. Last thing I need to do is add some bling. Literally. Some diamond stickles to the lantern and the rest of the things on here. Alright guys. All the little diamond stickles have been attached to everything that I wanted to have glitter on. Little on my cardinals. I put some on the outside flowers even though I did not do it on the inside. Got some on my lamppost and this little cardinal here. And basically we're just left with making mats. Now we don't make our mats together, so you have plenty of paper left over. Let me go check and see. Okay, so this is what I have left over. I have plenty to make picture mats with. Alright guys, have a great day and happy crafting.